Welcome to the Make It a Better Day podcast. I'm Daniel, and I'm here with my co host Megan. Today we're talking about something that's been on my mind a lot lately: how the smallest actions can transform our communities.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. Yesterday morning, I was running late for work and sprinted past this older gentleman who was picking up litter on our block. I've seen him doing this for months but never really stopped to think about it until I read today's article, Small Acts, Strong Communities, Your Part Matters.
That's exactly the kind of everyday heroism the article opens with. That image of someone quietly collecting trash along their street, week after week, not because anyone asked them to, but just because they care. No fanfare, no social media posts about it, just showing up consistently.
It makes me a little embarrassed, honestly. I've walked past that guy for months, maybe even years, and never once stopped to say hello or offered to help. I think that's why Muhammad Ali's quote in the article hit me so hard: service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth.
That quote stopped me in my tracks too. It's such a powerful reframing that being here, taking up space in this world, comes with a kind of, I don't know, not obligation exactly.
More like an opportunity?
Yes. An opportunity to contribute something. And I love how the article unpacks that metaphor, explaining that unlike financial rent, which just maintains a space, community service actually transforms both the giver and the receiver.
I've absolutely experienced that transformation. Last summer, our block had a massive storm that knocked out power for days. I barely knew my neighbors before that, but I had a generator and started offering coffee and phone charging on my porch each morning.
That's such a perfect example.
And here's the thing: I thought I was just being helpful, but those morning coffee sessions became this unexpected bright spot during a tough week. People shared stories, laughed together despite the heat and inconvenience. I met neighbors I'd lived near for years but never really knew. When the power finally came back on, I actually felt a little sad that our impromptu coffee club would end.
So you were transformed by your own act of service.
Completely. And we still have block parties now, which never happened before the storm. One small act created this ripple effect that's still going. What about you? Have you experienced something similar?
Just last month, actually. There's this tiny, neglected park near my apartment that I walk past every day. It was always littered with trash, and I'd complain about it but never actually do anything. Then one Saturday, I just grabbed a trash bag and spent 30 minutes cleaning up. Nothing heroic.
But let me guess, something unexpected happened?
Exactly. While I was picking up trash, this mom and her daughter who were walking by stopped to help. The next weekend, they brought another family. Now there's this informal group of about 6 of us who meet Saturday mornings. Someone brings coffee, someone else brings donuts. We clean for maybe 30 minutes, then just hang out and talk.
That's incredible. And it perfectly illustrates what the article says about how the most powerful community connections often grow from the smallest seeds.
Absolutely. And none of it was planned. There was no committee meeting or formal organization. It was just one small action that created space for connection.
You know what really struck me about the article? The part about how our existing passions often point the way to meaningful service. Like the neighbor who turned their love of baking into a welcome tradition for new residents, or the weekend woodworker who helps older neighbors with home repairs.
I love those examples because they show how service doesn't have to be this separate thing we add to our already busy lives. It can be an extension of what we already enjoy doing.
Exactly. And when service flows from your genuine interests and talents, it's sustainable. It energizes rather than depletes you. I have a friend who's an incredible gardener, and she started teaching free gardening classes at our community center. She lights up when she talks about it.
That's beautiful. And it makes me think, what am I already doing that I could share with others? I'm not a great gardener, but I do love cooking.
There you go. Maybe that's your way in. The article mentions John Bon Jovi's Soul Kitchen restaurants. What did you think of that example?
I was blown away, honestly. Not just the scale of it, serving over 100,000 meals, but the dignity built into the model. People who can't afford to pay can volunteer instead. Everyone eats the same high-quality food in the same space. There's no separation between those who pay and those who don't.
It shows how one person's vision for service can create this sustainable system of community care. But I appreciate that the article didn't just focus on celebrity examples or massive initiatives. It kept coming back to simple, daily actions.
Like the suggestion to just pay attention to the rhythms of your neighborhood, noticing the morning dog walkers or the after-school crowds. I started doing that this week, and it's amazing what you see when you're really looking.
What have you noticed?
There's this group of older folks who meet at the coffee shop on my corner every Tuesday. They take up the big table by the window and talk for hours. And there's a dad and his toddler who feed the birds in the park every morning at 8. Just these little patterns that make up the life of our neighborhood.
And once you notice those patterns, you start to see where you might fit in, right? Where there might be needs or opportunities that align with what you have to offer.
Exactly. The article suggests such a simple first step too, just learning the name of someone you've passed 100 times before. Did you try that?
I did. Remember that litter-picking gentleman I mentioned? I finally introduced myself to him this morning. His name is Frank. He's lived on our block for 42 years, and he started picking up trash after he retired 3 years ago because, in his words, what else am I gonna do with my Tuesday mornings?
I love that. And now Frank isn't just that guy who picks up trash, he's Frank with a name and a story and a connection to you.
And he told me that sometimes the middle school kids join him on their way to school. They make it into a game, counting who can find the weirdest piece of trash. Again, it's that ripple effect. The article describes how one person's consistent action has grown into this unspoken community habit.
That reminds me of one of my favorite lines from the article: the strongest communities are built by people who simply show up, day after day, bringing what they have to share. It's not about grand gestures or formal programs.
It's about Frank and his Tuesday morning trash pickup. Or your Saturday park crew with their coffee and donuts. Or my friend teaching gardening at the community center.
Exactly. All these small acts of attention and care that add up to something powerful. And the beauty is, anyone can start today. You don't need special skills or resources, just the willingness to notice what's needed and show up consistently.
I think that's the most empowering message from this article. We sometimes feel overwhelmed by the big problems in our communities, but meaningful change often starts with these tiny, consistent actions that are within everyone's reach.
So what's your tiny action going to be this week? I'm thinking about bringing some homemade cookies to our Saturday park cleanup. Nothing fancy, just a small additional way to create connection.
I asked Frank if I could join him next Tuesday. He seemed surprised but pleased. Said he'd bring an extra trash grabber. It's such a small thing, but I'm actually really looking forward to it.
Those small things are everything. As the article says, they're how we pay our rent for being here, not through obligation but through the joy of contributing to the places we share.
We hope today's discussion has inspired you to consider your own unique contribution to your community. Remember Muhammad Ali's words, service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. What small act might you begin today?
If you enjoyed this conversation and want to explore more ways to strengthen your community connections, you can find the full article on our website at Make It a Better Day. While you're there, check out our Redbubble store, where you'll find products with inspiring messages about community and more.
Thanks for joining us on the Make It a Better Day podcast. Until next time, remember that your small acts create strong communities, one moment, one connection at a time.
See you next time.